Welcome back to another episode of the Heart Healthy Hustle podcast. Happy Monday. Today's interview is really good if you're an entrepreneur, if you are an owner of a service-based business or a cafe-style restaurant, or if you would like to figure out how to become a more active part and servant of your local community. Yemi talks a lot about how to connect with others, how to serve others, and how to live a life of gratitude and being present in the present moment. You're going to learn how he stays grounded. What are some of the practices that he does to make sure he's able to keep pursuing his goals and the vision that he has for his life? This episode is filled with awesome suggestions, straight from the heart, some very heartfelt stories as well, shared from Yemi's past, and it's very exciting as well. We have great book suggestions in the influential book section of the interview, and it's a very comprehensive interview. Sit back, relax, and get ready for another awesome episode. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Heart Healthy Hustle podcast, where business owners learn to thrive as we strive. On this show, we sit down with industry-leading experts about developing self-awareness, impacting your niche, and striving to live the best life possible. Our mission is to encourage ambitious pursuits in a heart-healthy way through intentional conversation and increasing self-awareness. Why heart healthy? Because burnout and stress are global epidemics. We're discussing tools that help you to navigate business ownership successfully. So whether you're driving to or from work right now, exercising, eating, or simply relaxing, come hang out and get ready to enjoy another inspiring episode of the Heart Healthy Hustle Show. Welcome back to another inspiring episode of the Heart Healthy Hustle podcast. Today's guest, Yemi Mobolade, is a VP of Business Retention and Expansion for the Colorado Springs Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Corporation. He is a multifaceted entrepreneur and enjoys doing creative projects at home with his beautiful family. He also enjoys being outdoors, things like running, hiking, just being an active part of his community. Yemi, grateful to have you on the show today. Fill in any gaps from the intro that you like to share with the audience.
That was a very kind and generous introduction. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We usually jump in with a favorite success quote, a life motto, a saying you live by. Share with the audience what you got and what it means to you.
So I'd say one that that's reoccurring for me that I've just grabbed a hold on to is one actually by an author by the name of Mark Batterson. He's got a book called The Wild Goose Chase. This is a paraphrase of his original quote. In a sense, the quote says, I want to do something so great with my life that I possibly can't take credit for it. So that quote drives me to keep seeking for bigger things. I was just telling a friend yesterday, and I say this quite a bit, that if you're not doing something where you go to bed at night and you say, gosh, I have no idea how I'm going to get this done. It's not big enough. It's got to be bigger than you. It's got to be bigger than you in the sense that you're asking for help. But you're asking for help because you know if you can accomplish this great thing, it would make a world of difference. The other quote that I'm drawn to is, it says the two most important discoveries in one's life is the day they were born and the day they discovered why. So I usually add to it and ask friends, what is your why? I always say, if you know your why, it is what gets you up in the morning, it's what helps you sleep at night, and it's what makes you kick ass during the day.
I'm interested to hear a brief story. You're an incredibly humble man. It's very obvious, even just meeting you recently. I'm interested to hear a brief story, share your age, a bit about your background, your journey. I know a friend of yours, Tim, as he was sharing briefly about you, he told me great things about you, including that you had just got your citizenship to the U.S. from Nigeria about 2 years ago.
Yeah, all right.
It's incredible how you're so involved in your community and how you have such a passion for already giving back. If you would, share your background, what you've been through, what you've overcome, how you got to where you are today. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to do that. Another quote that I always think about, that I always tell the young people that I mentor, I would say that your uniqueness is a gold mine. Sometimes, you can be so different that it can feel like a weakness. But I take the position that your uniqueness is actually a great strength. And I say that because that's a big part of who I am. And in my story, I'm 39. I immigrated to the U.S. 22 years ago to go to college. I was an international student. I came very unaware of who I was. I came insecure. I came without just as a late bloomer. I was just about a late bloomer in just about everything. I am a product of people's investment. I credit my successes to the leaders that believed in me and the leaders that invested in me, and I am committed to paying it forward. So I'm a product of all the great people in my life that said things such as, there's something special in you. I can't figure out what it is. And they said it to me moments when I was at my worst. That I would say, how can you even say that? I grew up in West Africa, in Nigeria. I grew up in a culture where a dad was king of the home, but that's not uncommon for many ethnic third world countries. Very different than the way things are in the U.S., where we almost idolize our children. So kids didn't have a voice. I was always one of my friends, he believes I can't remember the name of the assessment, but I would score just off the charts when it comes to objective reasoning. Wow. So I've always been created that way. And so in a culture that has strong norms and strong family obligations and connectedness, you just did things the way you were told to do. And being a young child and being one of four siblings, I was the only one that questioned things, the only ones that was willing to challenge and ask questions. And my dad and I butted heads quite a bit. Many times as I kept getting older, I felt like I was born in the wrong culture. I didn't know where the right culture would have been. It just felt like I was born in the wrong family. So I struggled with dad. I felt held back. I felt all my interests and hobbies were really killed at a young age. And I don't hold any grudges or regrets. In fact, I feel like both my parents did the best with what they had, because if you know their story, growing up in a poor country and having almost nothing, and what they've made with that, it's actually quite impressive. When I moved to the U.S., I was just fortunate to have men and women and mentors in my life that were just able to pick up from where my parents left. I've moved from being very shy and intimidated to more confident. When I do speaking engagements and I have to get up in front of people, which I do quite often these days, and people ask, how are you so comfortable with that? I said, well, here's the thing. I still feel those nerves, but I'm just learned the art of dealing with them. From having really no friends, social wealth and social capital has become one of my greatest blessings that I have in my city. That's a little bit of me.
Thank you for sharing that, Yemi. I appreciate you pressing into that. The first question that comes to my mind is, you were very shy, maybe no friends, very little friendship. How did you get from there to where you are now? I know there's many years have passed, many things have happened. What were some things that caused you to make decisions and gain confidence, the self-esteem, and eliminate a lot of your self-doubt? A big thing for people many times is mentorship. What were some of the actual examples of mentorship that really spoke to you and helped lift you up in those times?
2 years ago, I was humbled when my college reached out to me, my alma mater, Bethel College, and asked to come back to get an Alumni of the Year award. And one of the things that I was asked to do was to kind of give a short presentation. And I remember in that I gave a 5-minute talk on names. And I just told stories of names. And it was names of people who have been part of my journey, who I will always owe who I am to. I'll tell you the first one. Her name is Brandy Miller. That's her maiden name. But I actually invited Brandy and her husband to sit with me at the award acceptance dinner. And Brandy Miller will forever have a special place in my heart. I was a freshman in August of 1996, and I was new into the country. I didn't know very many people, didn't have very many friends. Still at the time, struggling with my dad and having a lot of hurt. I came into the country very unaware of who I was, and I came in with a very thick accent. I remember just walking on campus and not a whole lot of people talking to me, probably even hard to understand at the time because of my thick accent, even though I was English is what I grew up speaking. And Brandy at the time was a senior about to graduate. And at a time where seniors they're somewhat checked out from campus. They have senioritis. Brandy was a different kind of senior. She noticed me. And I always use the phrase, she noticed me. So a lot of my story comprises of the people and the mentors who noticed me. So Brandy noticed me and stopped to talk to me, took time to ask my name, to teach her how to say it. She asked for my story, where I was from. She wanted to know the details of my life. That was a very impactful and powerful moment for me because nobody really had done that to me. And as I share the story, every time I share, I begin to tear up because of the feeling that I felt then. I made me feel like $1,000,000. And I remember that feeling like it was yesterday. And every time those type of moments happen from the Brandies of our world, two things always happen. One, I felt like $1,000,000. And then two, I was determined I wanted to be that person to somebody else.
Wow.
So it started with Brandy, and it moved to Sean Holgren and Tim Elder and Kathy Gribben and Vicki Garrett and Bob Ham. And I began to collect. I began to be a collector of people's assets that I loved. Yeah, that started back in 1996.
Would it be safe to say that you were picking up the best attributes and emulating those from these people?
Absolutely.
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah, we should all strive to be more like the Brandies of the world.
Right? Absolutely.
Amazing. We didn't share this in the intro, but I want to bring it up. You are the co-owner and co-founder of 2 restaurants. Is that correct?
Yeah, I actually prefer the word cafe. Yeah, and the cafe, very different than restaurant. But my business that I co-own with a good friend of mine now, his name is Russ. We, in a sense, cafes, but I always call them Cafe 2.0s. So we're open all day from morning to evening, and the public places that the community can come together, and we serve third wave craft coffee. We have 12 taps of Colorado craft beers. We have unique wines and local distilled beverages, and this is what really makes it 2.0 is the design of the space. And also I think our food menu is it's beyond just a typical cafe. We have things like really good, amazing nachos and brats. Yeah, local brats from the community. So those are, and then we do, unique things like breakfast quesadillas in the mornings. And then the other Good Neighbors Meeting House.
I'm getting hungry just hearing about it.
We have gourmet waffles and things like that. So yeah, it's been a blessing to be able to have those in a community.
So for any listeners where is it located? Colorado Springs?
Colorado Springs, Colorado. One is in downtown proper. The other one is just north of downtown.
Love it. You guys have to go check it out. And what are the names?
Yeah, and they're tied to a deeper value of what we're trying to create. So what is similar is the name Meeting House. But the one in downtown that we opened almost 5 years ago is called Wild Goose Meeting House. And the second one that we opened just over a year ago is called Good Neighbors Meeting House.
So I know you're involved in many things, and there's many things that I'm not aware of that you are involved in as an entrepreneur. That lifestyle is not always easy. It can be challenging. At this point in your life, you've achieved some wonderful goals, a lot of things going for you. Obviously, you have a beautiful family. You have your entrepreneur working for the Chamber of Commerce, VP, all these different things going on. What does it look like to start becoming more well-connected and start giving back more and serving more with that as your goal? How can somebody like me who's not as well-connected, not even close, get to a place where I am more well-connected so I can better serve my community?
That's a great question. And I've always believed even the best way you can market your business in your local economy. I'm speaking very much local. So I want to clarify. So the best way you can market your local business is really to serve the community, because you become a walk-in billboard for your business. I know it seems counterintuitive because as an entrepreneur, you're supposed to be putting in 100 hours to 120 hours. And I did. And Russ and I did. We were there. We both got sick as we were opening that business. And we did put in 120 hours, but it's not sustainable. Russ and I really, our primary identity as people who love the city and who are trying to work for its flourishing. One of the first things in my introduction of myself, usually I would say I'm obsessed with all things city flourishing. I do believe cities matter to God, and I'm pretty bullish about my love for my city of Colorado Springs. That inspires us to really see everything that we've been given as a way to give back, as a way to impact. So city impact is what we do. And it's so fascinating because it really does come back into how our business does. So we really do not invest in the traditional marketing forms other than social media, which Russ is really good at. But we don't do any kind of marketing purchases. What we do in a sense is we just show up. Both of us, we sit on two different downtown boards, our businesses in the downtown area. I sit on the cultural offices board. I sit on a Springs Rescue Mission Board, which is an organization that really cares for the homeless population and really working to improve their lives. So when you begin to serve your community in this way, people associate who you are because wherever you serve, they know me as Yemi. What do you do? What do you own? Well, because, that's that business downtown on Tejon and Boulder. We've been there. Oh, that's a great place. My wife and I were thinking about going there this weekend. We're going to go there. We're going to bring our kids. We're going to tell our friends. They become brand ambassadors for you. So the two are deeply connected for us in the way we operate. Not saying that is the way or the only way, but I would say it's work for us, where a big part of the success of our business has been this identity of two people who are caring for the community, and people are eager to support what you have, and also forgiving of your mistakes, because we also have to depend on a staff of almost 40 people between two businesses to make sure that things are going well.
Okay. What would the first step be? You can go out and find avenues to serve your local community, but what is a word of encouragement that you would say to like a lonely entrepreneur? Can you think of anything that you would tell them that they need to do so they're not lonely anymore?
Yeah, I would say if you're a lonely entrepreneur and you're listening to this podcast, please make that a top priority, not to be lonely. That is,
yes,
there should be no such thing, not at all. In fact, I learned a statement from some friends in town and who are connected in the entrepreneurial circles. And the statement says, if you want to be king, go in on it alone. If you want to be successful, find a partner.
Yes.
So think about that statement for a second. And this is not even a statement that is spiritual by note. I came from a spiritual platform. So it's saying that if you want to be king, you want to be in charge, you want to call all the shots, you just want to have your way. Yeah, go in on it alone, and you will be lonely. But if you want to be successful truly, both in your health and the health of the business and health of the community, you need others. You need other people that you're bouncing off ideas from. And by the way, no entrepreneur has it all. This is why we need each other. We all have a bent. We all have strengths. And this is what I love about the Strengths Finders theory and that assessment.
Yes.
It highlights and showcases, your top strengths. And one of the things I took away from it was not only do I keep running forging ahead with the things that I'm good at, it allows me to know who I need to speak with the things that I'm not so good at. I would say if you are lonely, I'm sorry that you're lonely, but there is a way to get out of it, because it is not a great place to be. One of the ways to get out of loneliness is just find a networking group, whether it's a niche networking group of people in your type of business, an association, or just a networking group in general. If you're a young entrepreneur, typically in many cities there are groups like that. We have 3 different ones in this city that I'm aware of. We have the Aspiring Change Makers group, the Colorado Springs Young Professionals, and then we also have the Rising Professionals group. If you don't want to go that route, find a local co-working place in the area. Co-working spaces are great because they're full of like-minded people. Those are places you can find. As a man, I call them brothers. And if you're a woman, I call them sisters. I've always believed that I've always, I don't know where I heard this saying, but I always believe that every man needs a father, a brother, and a son. So this is talking of different tiers of relationship and mentoring relationship. And every woman needs a mother, a sister, and a daughter. So
a mother, a sister, and a daughter, and a father, brother, and a son.
Exactly. So I need somebody mentoring me, pouring into me. I need friends, peer mentors that we're mentoring each other. And that's Tim to me, Dr. Meyer. We call each other friend tours. And then we also need somebody that I'm pouring into. I have two young aspiring leaders in the community that I invite to just about everything with me. And I make time for them and even invite them into my life to be with my family and to watch me and do as I do. So I would say there's no room for loneliness. If you can't find a mentor to pour into you, like a father or mother, find a friend tour, find a brother or sister. And if you can't find a brother or sister, find a son or daughter, find someone to pour into. Because even if you don't find someone that can help you, you can be helping others. And you'd be surprised the act of helping others, how that can help bring clarity to your own activities. And how that can help even unstuck you from the things that you're stuck in. Because they say the best way to learn things is to be a teacher. So when you have to speak or you have to teach others, you become a great researcher. It's a position of just great honor, and you want to take it seriously when you're imparting information on others. So when you're going to impart information on other people, gosh, what it does is that it makes you even become a better learner.
Wow. Just kind of letting that soak in a little bit. One thing that many people may push back with, how do you invite people to give you feedback? And also, what if somebody is scared to be vulnerable? They just need to get over it. Is that right?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Nobody needs to get over it. I think even sometimes when the feedback feels unfair or not warranted or unjust, I think having a culture where people can share and speak up outwins even a negative feedback. I think what feedback does, it says more about who we are and uncovers the insecurity of the entrepreneur or the leaders. And even as I say that in a sense of I've not figured that out. It's hard to hear negative things spoken about you or the business. Two biggest shift in revelations that happened 5 years ago after the Wild Goose opened that I wasn't ready for. The first one was when it became this public place in the community, when it was no longer my baby. That was a whoa moment. I remember telling my wife, it was like, I think 3 or 4 months the business had just opened. And I said, well, I'm going to the Wild Goose to meet with so-and-so. I can't remember the name of the person who I was meeting then. But it's how I said it. It wasn't so much I said it like I was going to the Wild Goose as my baby. I said it like I was going to this community place. Closely related to that was because it became a public place in the community, I was not ready for, oh yeah, people get to critique you and give you feedback, and it's all over social media
right.
and on Yelp and Google reviews, and whoa, that I did not see that coming. It's like I knew that existed, but gosh, when people are empowered to say what they feel about your entity, that was a whole new moment that I wasn't ready for feedback. And we've got a lot of great ones, but the ones that are completely negative, that feels unwarranted or it feels not fair. And I would say having that, I think that culture is okay, because sometimes even if you get a 1 out of 5, I think there's some truth, the things that you can learn, because I think some feedback are ridiculous. Because sometimes people walk in there thinking we're a restaurant. It's cafe style. We don't have service, the traditional service. You get served, but we don't have waiters. So people make comment on things like that, and I think, well, they don't really understand the type of business they're visiting. But here's the feedback about it that I take. Maybe not so much the unrealistic expectation, but what I'm hearing is, we got to figure out a different way to communicate. They don't know what type of business they're coming to. We have to be aware of people who are new, stepping in for the first time, who just came from the street, who didn't see it on the website. How can we communicate better? So I feel like feedback is great, but it's also you also get it when you empower people to give it in such a way that they can do it on their own terms. They know they can give it and they're not going to get reprimanded for it. From a staffing level, we're about to experiment with a program created by a couple of innovators in our city. So one of the guys named it after his wife, Mandy. AI is artificial intelligence, but it's it's a human resource platform and tool that empowers your staff to give feedback, and the owners or managers receive it. We don't know who it's coming from. And then it does a bunch of artificial intelligence crunching of information and find consistencies, and then produces reports for the owners or managers that tells you how your employees are feeling. And then provides a report of things that you can be doing to improve your processes.
Wow, that sounds incredible.
It is incredible. The guys actually testing it out with Chick-fil-A now as we speak. I guess the heart of feedback is empowerment, the tools, and for people to do it in such a way that you're not there and they can be honest about it.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. Even for me, I went to Ohio last week and I had Airbnb. And I met the owner, and they were really nice, and it was good. But there was some hair on the shower, and it had some mold. I always like to give great reviews, but I also want to be honest so that it gets fixed for the next people paying.
Exactly.
So it's super awkward because it says, this will be shared only between you and the host. And I'm thinking, well, it's not a big deal except for the fact that I really liked the place, except that's 4 stars instead of 5 because they left somebody else's body hair on the shower curtain all over the toilet. So it's gross. But so I'm thinking to myself, if I write that on there, it's going to make them annoyed probably, but it has to be said. Awkward. Yeah, I think anonymity is very powerful to empowering somebody to give honest feedback. Yeah,
that's the right word. Anonymity. Yeah, that's the right word. Well said. It's very true.
So Yemi, I'd love to jump into the Heart Healthy Hustle round. I'll ask you a series of rapid fire questions that are based off of the title. So are you ready for the Heart Healthy Hustle round?
Yes.
Awesome. So for the first category, we have heart. What activity do you use to care for and strengthen your internal character?
Spiritual direction. I've answered this question quite a bit actually in my local community, sitting on panel. Spiritual direction, if you don't know what that is the practice of being with a spiritual director, so a person who is trained in guiding you to the divine, to who God is. So it's for you to grow in your spirituality. Really, the spiritual director is helping you to recognize where God is at work in your life. The actual meeting looks like counseling or looks like coaching, but it's more and I've done both, counseling and coaching. My wife and I believe in both. But I would say spiritual direction is one that I've made a top priority. And it's really interesting. I actually schedule it right in the middle of the day during the lunch hour, where I work in the downtown area and I walk 6-7 blocks to meet with my spiritual director. It allows me to center and be still and hear the voice of God and be aware of where he's working with me as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a dad and husband. And many times I leave that meeting and I'm going to the next meeting and I have clarity. So I'd say that's a big one. And closely related to that is every year, my spiritual director, she helps me come up with a rule of life, which is a personal plan or pattern for spiritual disciplines. And
yes.
In that rule of life, I make my 2018 plans, which includes recurring themes in my life, such as Sabbath moments, which are moments throughout the day to stop and recognize where God was at work in that last meeting or in that last conversation. And sometimes my Sabbath moments are in between meetings. I'm going from one meeting to another. So that comes out of my rule of life, including mentors and friends and friendtors and the people. Sometimes my rule of life is a name of person that comes to mind. And I felt like this is somebody I want to pursue. And I make it a plan for that year to get a quarterly meeting with this mentor, with this leader. Rule of life includes how I Sabbath and how I times with my wife and I, with my family, with just me. So those are just a few examples.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. That includes the daily office. Is that correct? Rule of life. I have one as well. It's hard to follow it. It's hard to follow it. I'm really trying to be more accountable to follow it better.
I share in that with you. I would say I don't follow all of it, but it's the act of creating it. I'd say every year I'm able to do something new that I haven't done, but I'm with you. I think it is hard to follow and do everything.
That's powerful. For health, we have the next category. How do you maintain your physical health and avoid burnout? So I was just wondering at this point, how do you maintain meetings, all these things going on? How do you maintain your physical health in all of that and avoid burnout?
The word no, because every no is a yes to something else. So learning to keep the main thing, because there's always something to do. Another one for me is knowing that, closely related to the first one, the work is never finished. You just pick up from where you left. And I would say my family have been the biggest health for me, because when I was single, gosh, I could go for, it didn't matter how many hours.
Yeah.
So when I got married, I knew I had to stop so I could be with my wife. With kids in the picture now I really have to stop earlier because kids are in. I also not just want to be a successful entrepreneur in the community. I want to be a successful entrepreneur with my family.
Yes.
So I just have to stop and be with my family. And they're such a blessing because they help me live life differently. I play differently. I laugh differently. It's a different side of me. And I'm not able to do work, or at least I choose not to do work when I'm with, because they're young. So I don't want to miss out on the opportunity with them. So I would say family has been the biggest benefit. And if your family is not that, I hope you can choose to see your family as a blessing to help keep you balanced as an entrepreneur. Other things that I enjoy, the outdoors. So it's running or hiking. And Colorado is just a beautiful place, and especially this city with the Colorado Springs with the Front Range Mountains. But doing it with friends who also enjoy it, because you have the enjoying nature, enjoying God, and enjoying company. So gardening and home projects, those are, I feel like the things I do in the community, I'm helping others. When I do gardening at home or I'm doing a creative home project, those are things I feel like I create for me. I get to enjoy. I get to create something out of nothing for my own personal enjoyment. So I would say leveraging your wiring, but being able to do it in a way with rest and health. On the Enneagram, I'm a type 3,
okay,
which is an achiever. So people who are driven, success-oriented, drive is everything. What does it look like to be driven in your health? I would say it's really important to leverage your type in seeking health. So for me, it's the things I've mentioned, including family. I want my family to be successful. So I have to invest in them. And then investing in them also means that I get to take a break from work and I get to just be with them and play with my son at his level. I'll stop there.
How to leverage your health. Do you know your Myers-Briggs numbers by chance?
I think I'm ENFJ or ENTJ. I think I'll swap between the two.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for sharing. A lot of people know Enneagram, but some people are more familiar with Myers-Briggs, and they are different. But yeah, kind of leveraging your health and then also including your family. That's beautiful. So moving on to hustle. You are number 3 on the Enneagram, so very driven individual. What's your main motivation for doing what you do? Why is it so important to hustle to the max of your potential?
I have a confession to make. I despise the word hustle. So, but I think I know what you're asking. I just feel like hustle has that negative connotation of you got to do what it takes to.
I knew this moment would come on my podcast, and actually, you're not alone. You're not alone. When I first came up with the name was 2016, and it was still kind of a hip word to say. And now, the more I get into it, the less I like what it represents in terms of just grinding and grinding.
Yes,
I resonate with where you're coming from 100%. In defense of my show, I think it's an awesome name. That being said, though, yes, that's the question is, what is it that is driving you? Why do you want to, push yourself to reach the max of your potential, in other words?
And in defense of you, I have a lot of friends I respect that use it too. So I know the deeper meaning. Words are really important to me. So why do I do what I do? I say, know your why. It's what gets you up in the morning. It's what helps you sleep at night, and what makes you help you kick ass in the middle of the day. Why I do what I do is because I know my why. My personal mission statement is to collaborate for the health, growth, and prosperity of my beloved city of Colorado Springs. That's why I get up in the morning. I'm in that is collaborate. That is a verb. And that says what I do and who I am. I'm a collaborator at heart. I collaborate around the ideas and initiatives that have the biggest impact of city flourishing. I say health, growth, and prosperity. That is three different ways of saying the same thing. I want to see this city flourish. I want to see Shalom in its entirety, whether it's economic, whether it's spiritual, whether it's physical, whether it's social, ideas and things that make our citizens happy and move things forward, and where there's reconciliation and unity and businesses that pop up that help, like the Wild Goose, that help advance other ideas in the city when people come together in our place. And then the third part of my mission statement is my beloved city of Colorado Springs. That is the noun, that is the beneficiary and its citizens. So that's what gets me up. I'm a futurist inspired by visions of what could be. I'm committed to paying it forward for the things that have been done to me. So these are the values and the things that shape who I am. And money and providing for family is a byproduct. It's in the forefront, don't get me wrong. I think about it because that's also a responsibility I consider so important. But that's not what drives me. What drives me is how can we make our city better? And then I go, how can I get paid doing that? It's really important in the midst of all of that too, to understand oneself, to know what is your unique proposition, what's your uniqueness, and how God has wired you. And for me, it's the ability to bring people together and serve as a bridge builder, people that would never be in the same room, but being able to bring them together and say, let's work on this together and let's make a difference and let's focus on big easies and low hanging fruit, and then be able to tell them, I want all of us to win. When this wins, each individual wins and the city benefits. That is my hustle.
Wow, that's very powerful. I want to see Shalom in its entirety.
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful. Wow. I'm inspired just hearing that. And thank you for sharing that, Yemi. I appreciate you being vulnerable and opening up to the audience there. That's beautiful.
You're welcome.
Before we go, I'd love to jump into my favorite question of the show. If you could go back in time, you're walking in your favorite park in Colorado Springs, and you see the younger version of yourself, maybe you're 20, 22 years old, maybe 25 years old, and you see yourself, young Yemi is sitting there on the bench alone. He's looking out at the lake, and you can walk up to him and put your hand on his shoulder, and you're sitting next to your younger self. What would you tell your younger self, and why?
I would tell my younger self that is 24 and 25. I had a job that I think it was 3 years out of college, and I was feeling restless and feeling like there was something more. I wanted to do more. And I had the limitations of being an immigrant and not being able to work anywhere you want to because of visas and all that kind of stuff. And it was challenging. Oh, if I saw that Yemi sitting in that office, daydreaming, I would say, it's going to get better and you're going to like it and enjoy the course. That's what I would tell that Yemi.
I love that. I'm getting excited now. 3 most influential books. I'm
not one to have favorites too. That's what makes, when I was younger, favorite color. I don't really have one.
Well, yeah. Well, the question was most influential, so they don't have to be a favorite.
That's a good point. For whatever reason, I connect those two together because I've been influenced by a lot. But I would say one of them for me is the book To Change the World by James Davidson Hunter. So that book is very much of a seminary type of read, and it's leans more academic. But I love James Davidson Hunter's his take on what it really looks like to be a world changer. And some of the ideas have formed and shaped me. 2 things I'll tell you briefly. That's the first time I heard the concept of faithful presence, where being able to think of where the places that God has placed us. Doesn't matter how hard or even how easy, but being faithfully present to the things that we have in front of us, to the people around us, to the tools we have at our disposal, and making the most out of it. That's how we change the world. And the other piece that really stuck with me from that book is where he talks about the folks, he does a kind of a historical sweep and looks at the people that are most positioned to actually change the world are not, he takes a different approach, not really the top down or the bottom up. You know, people in the top have a lot to worry about. People in the bottom have a long way in terms of that journey to making true change. But it's the people in the peripheries who have relationship between the people in the top and people in the bottom that are uniquely positioned to really bring about some really cool world changing. societal change. I don't know. I felt like at the time I saw myself there, I'm like, instead of blaming others, I've been uniquely positioned where I have enough relationship with the senior leaders and enough relationship with people who would, quote unquote, the bottom. And I can serve as a bridge builder and advance things. So I would say that book really, among many other concepts in that book, was empowering. Other influential books that have really influenced what I do today are things like Culture Making by Andy Crouch, The Great Good Place by Ray Oldenburg. He coined the phrase, the guy that coined the phrase third place. Faith Wise when I was struggling in my late 20s. That gave me hope. Books like The Present Future by Reggie McNeil, The Shaping of Things to Come by Michael Frost and Alan Hirsch. I'm currently reading The New Localism. Things like The Death and Life of Great American Cities by Jay Jacobs. That's also one that's influenced me.
Thank you for sharing those books. I don't think I had any of those on my list or heard of most of any of those, actually. So I'm excited to add them to the wish list. Before we go, is there anything else you would like to leave with the audience? Anything you'd like to say? Any parting words? And how can the audience keep in connection with you?
I just want to say one last thing, gratitude and honor. Make gratitude just part of who you are. I always tell young interns that gratitude will take you farther than you can ever imagine. You can't say thank you enough. Just a quick story connected to that. There's a family in town they're big developers. I always joke that they own half of the city. Started by dad, son is taken over, is in his early 50s. And I sat with him in a community meeting, kind of know each other, but barely know each other. I sat with him in a community meeting and I had to leave early. Before I left, I wrote him this note and just thanked him for their work in the city, for the way they built the city, their thoughtfulness, their generosity, because this is a family that's also generous. And I slipped in a note and then left. And 2 days later, I got this email from him. And it was a picture of my note in his home in a very special place. I would say gratitude, when I say gratitude would take you farther than you can ever imagine, gratitude has opened more doors for me than anything else. A lot of people, we take. It's never good enough. And I'm sure that's a family that constantly being invited to give to everything. And I tell you, our friendship really started there. And he's been a big supporter of many of the things I've been involved in. And all it took was, thank you. I see the work you do. So I always tell young interns, that's one thing I always remember, that you can never say thank you enough, and be very specific about what you're thinking about. So those are my parting words. If you want to get a hold of me, a couple of ways. I'm in the middle of finishing my website at YemiMobolade.com, YemiMobolade.com, or Yemi.city. That's the other one. There's a form there that says that you can enter your information, and I'll be happy to get back to you. My businesses, Wild Goose Meeting House and Good Neighbors Meeting House, we have a great presence on social media. So you can find us on Facebook there, Instagram. And so, yeah, LinkedIn is also a great one that I use. I would say Facebook and LinkedIn are the ones that I use the most. Instead of spending time on those platforms, I'm not saying it's wrong. I just prefer to be present with the people every day and make things happen in the local community. I find that trying to document on social media is a time suck for me. Some folks are really good at doing it quickly, but that's not me. So I've chosen not to spend as much time there.
Cool. Guys, go check out what Yemi's doing. If you want to learn how to better serve your community locally, and you just want to learn how to live a life of gratitude and giving back and thriving in your city, check out his website. Yemi, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. It's meant a lot. You speak with a groundedness that also reflects a lot of self-awareness and a very strong sense of calmness as well. So I just want to acknowledge you for that, and I do appreciate your time today.
Oh, thank you for it's a privilege and an honor to given a platform to share my story. So I don't take it for granted. So thank you for what you do and the stories that you tell that inspire others. So thank you.
I plan to visit Colorado Springs before long now. It's apparently an awesome city. I didn't quite know that, but now I do. I'll be excited to check out your cafe as well. Thanks so much, Yemi.
Just because I love my city so much, so I feel like I can't leave you, but letting you know that in April we were named the second best city to live. We lost to Austin by 1/10 of a point. So this is U.S. News and World Report. They do all the best of.
Wow.
And then in July, we were also given #1 most desirable place to live. We beat Honolulu. So
wow.
Come visit us. And when you do come visit us,
wow.
Yeah, it's a reputable source, U.S. News and World Report.
Yeah.
So shoot me an email when you're coming.
Yeah, I definitely will. Cool.
Awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, before you jump off of this interview, I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening and showing support to this show. It means more than you know, and without you guys, remember, there is no Heart Healthy Hustle. So once again, thank you, and I want you to enjoy this holiday season. This Thursday, it's Thanksgiving, so whoever you're spending that with, whatever that looks like for you, just enjoy it, be present, and Godspeed. Oh, one other thing. Live wide open.